Whatever happened to Sun Wukong? At the beginning of Season 2, Sun Wukong wasn't necessarily in the best place. Quite a few warriors outclassed him, and assassins like Bakasura were still strong in the solo lane. On the 2nd of April of 2015, in patch 2.5, Sun Wukong received some small buffs. His magic cudgel got some extra damage against jungle camps and minions, his Master's Will got a slightly increased damage, and his 72 transformations got increased stun duration. After that, Sun Wukong was still not that great. He was better than before, he saw some play, but he was still not on par with the strongest warriors. That changed on the 1st of September in patch 2.13. Bluestone Pendant was completely reworked. It now had 20 physical power, 100 mana, and enemies hit by damaging abilities took additional 30 damage over 2 seconds. This started what would later be known as the Sun Bluekong time. Sun Bluekong was Sun Wukong with a Bluestone Pendant rushed, sometimes combined with a Potion of Physical Might. Due to Sun Wukong's long-range poke, his relatively low cooldown, and not too mana-intense abilities, Sun Wukong was able to bully pretty much everyone out in solo or sometimes even mid lane. Sun Wukong became a first pick, first ban god, and remained so for quite a while. In patch 2.6, Bluestone received a small power reduction down to 15 power. While this wasn't all that impactful, it still meant that Sun Wukong wasn't quite as scary early on as before. What should have probably been done at that point is nerfing Sun Wukong's cooldowns. The cooldowns were what allowed him to abuse Bluestone Pendant more than others, but that didn't happen. Instead, Sun Wukong received a major overhaul. His base health was reduced from 480 to 450. While that may not sound huge, it meant that early aggression was a fair bit more risky for him, and he was generally less tanky than most other warriors. Additionally, both Magic Cudgel and Master's Will received a mana cost increase, which was fairly significant given the amount of poke that you could deal before and how it was lowered if you were ever not able to secure your blue buff. Overall, this had a decent impact on Sun Wukong. He was no longer a top pick, but he was still not completely out of the meta. He was just a fair bit more risky. Enter Season 3. In Season 3, Sun Wukong didn't actually see any changes. However, Season 3 changed a lot for Sun Wukong. Some other warriors, for example Vamana, saw major buffs that changed how they played and how much impact they could have on the game. The solo lane became the main farm lane. Early on, you had a good chance to get ahead in solo and then steamroll out of it later, as many warriors were able to. The problem with Sun Wukong is that his kit is not really designed for that. Sun Wukong is a solo lane bully, and he wasn't really able to execute that job as well as before, as there were quite a few other warriors who could get it done the same way or even better, especially because they would have more relevance at later stages of the game. Let's take Vamana as an example here. Both Vamana and Sun Wukong have fast rotations, a knock-up, a slow, and an ult that heals them and helps them zone. However, Vamana can do much more in his ult because he can deal large amounts of damage. If he has Frostbound, he can still slow more on top of the other slow he has. And he can also zone off much better as his model gets much larger. So what real reason would there be to pick Sun Wukong over Vamana? A similar scenario goes for Raven, who can just bully better in the solo lane. May not be as impactful as other warriors late game, but same goes for Sun Wukong. So really, when we're looking at Sun Wukong's current place in the meta, it's not so much about Sun Wukong himself, but rather the other warriors that can be played in solo. In patch 3.5 in late March, Sun Wukong received a small buff to his health, bringing it back to 470, so 10 less than it originally was. However, his mana cost was unaffected. This is the state he is currently in. The point with Sun Wukong is that he's not necessarily bad. He is not necessarily low tier like many other gods I've done this series about. However, he is simply equal to or outclassed by every other warrior. The only warriors that are currently around the same level are Chark and Hercules. Bellona, Raven, and Osiris are better at boxing. Every other warrior brings more utility to the field late game. So to sum it up, the problem with Sun Wukong is not Sun Wukong. The problem is that the other warriors can just do more for you. That's it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. Duke Sloth, out. P.S. I will be giving plenty of skins away on my stream tomorrow, so if you want to stop by, feel free to check it out.